promotion.
Live streaming is on.
Awesome.
And hopefully we can keep building out, but it's at least a starter guide.
Do you want to share a link? Oh, you already did it.
Boom.
Nice.
So yeah, the main thing that I want to cover today, I want to empower you guys to be able to send out awesome email notifications for any events that happen on Giveth, and also just be able to send emails to all of our different users. But that's just kind of the beginning. Like we're gonna go through Segment and Autopilot. These are two of my favorite tools that I've used for years at the past couple companies that I've worked for, and they've just been awesome tools because, yeah, not only do they allow us to send email notifications, but we can do so much more. So we'll just dive right in, and I'll show you guys what I mean by that. And I think by the end of this, you guys are going to be huge fans of Segment and Autopilot. You're going to have some awesome skills that will be useful for Giveth and will be useful for any application that you ever contribute to. So Segment is the tool that we are using to capture all of the user analytics on our website. So, and yeah, over the years, Segment has kind of evolved, and it's become the category king for this use case, where basically, as you can see in this image, they used to call Segment the last integration you'll ever need. Because before Segment, if you wanted to, you're building a web application, you want to integrate these different services, you need to integrate a bunch of different tools. So you need to integrate, some email tool like MailChimp, and then Google Analytics for analytics, and HubSpot to keep track of all your users, and then Zendesk tool for support tickets. And it becomes really complex, and every time you want to add a new tool, it's like a whole epic for the engineers to go in and do all this. It's a lot of work. And then Segment came along, and what they did is they made it so that you could just plug in one integration and track any event that you care about, and then send that same exact data to all your different tools. And another benefit of that is that it makes sure that you have consistent data across all your different tools, as opposed to only having whichever events you're tracking with that specific tool. And since then, Segment, what's so awesome about it is they have so many tools integrated. So once you integrate Segment, then people like us, without doing any extra code, can go use any of these different tools that Segment already has built in. So there's tools for A/B testing, analytics, customer relationship management, deep linking, email marketing, feature flagging, which is like if we're building a new feature and we want to roll it out to certain users or be able to push code out to production before the feature's complete. Feature flagging is a really valuable tool. We could turn on heat maps right now. If we wanted to, we could turn a heat map on and see like what people are clicking on and what pages are looking at. Help desk tools, marketing automation, which is Autopilot, performance monitoring, referral stuff, like pretty much every kind of tool you can imagine. Segment has an integration for it, and they have usually multiple. Like if we go look at any of these, there's going to be a variety of different tools that we could choose from.
And do we have to, that's amazing. And do we have to, like, to use each of those, do we have to have an account with whatever the partner is that does that, or we can do it all through the Segment tool?
Great question. So you do need to go set up the account on any of these tools. So if you wanted to do Google Analytics, you go set up a Google Analytics account. And then in Google Analytics, you'd see we'd get a API key. And then all you would do is you basically just go plug in your website tracking ID, whatever keys you get from Google, and then you can enable it. And you can also customize some different settings sometimes. But this is basically like the stuff that a developer would do. A developer would get the code and they'd go plug it into all these different web pages, and they'd set up all this with code. Instead, we can just do it in the dashboard without any code.
Mm-hmm.
I'll delete this one for now. Yeah, usually like for Autopilot, it was literally as easy as just grabbing an API key and pasting it in, and then turning it on. Boom! Now Autopilot is live, and now everyone that gets tracked by Segment now shows up in Autopilot, and all the events that are tracked by Segment are now available on Autopilot to trigger emails just from creating an Autopilot account, pasting in that API key, and flipping the switch. So it's really powerful. And yeah, as a quick overview of Segment, basically you have sources and you have destinations. So your sources are anything that you're collecting data from. So right now we have the Giveth development and Giveth production, as well as the impact graph, which is the server. We could also, there's all sorts of things that we could use as a source. So Autopilot itself can actually be the source, and we can get data from Autopilot into Segment, like data like when a user opens an email and stuff. We could actually take that data, bring it back into Segment, and send it out to other tools if we wanted to. So we're basically, and if we ever have an app, we could also collect data from that app, and we could track the same user on the website and the app and make sure that we're sending them push notifications and all of that really easily. So today we're going to focus mainly on the just the email notifications and the integration with Autopilot because we want to stay focused, and that's the immediate need. But I definitely think that over time we'll find new tools, and whenever we want to try a new tool, we'll just be able to flip it on and start playing around with it in staging and development. And then if we like it, we can turn it on in production as well. So yeah, let's check out. In Segment, you can go into any of these different sources that you're collecting data from, and you can see the destinations that you have enabled. And you can also see just a live stream of the data being collected. So right now, here's a live stream of events on staging.giveth that I own. So if you go to staging, pull this up another window. In a second, you'll see this update right here, and it should know that it's me viewing all of this. Yep, here was me last night playing around with it. I did an update on the project. This is another fun thing. So here's like an example of some of the data you get whenever we track an event. We have a lot of data in here. All of these fields are available for us in all of the different destinations, which means Autopilot. In Autopilot, we can take any of these fields and put them into an email and customize it so that we can say, hi, Willy, this is your wallet address. Look at it on chain, and we could plug that into a link to look on chain. Or we could say, here's the update that you just posted, and we could actually show them the update in the email if we wanted to. This slug, this is like the project's actual URL. So if I go to /project /this, and you can create this link basically. Like we can go into Autopilot and we'll do this where we just hard code a link like this and just type that in, and then we just plug in whatever the slug is from the project, and then boom, now whoever gets the email, it'll have their project link directly from the email.
Cool.
Let's see. Wonder if it's working now. So let's try it. Let's do an event real quick, and we'll see if Segment catches it. Assigning a Taurus. So yeah, we have a few events already live. These are the events that we currently have live in Segment. If we wanted to add new events, which I think we should add an event for, like donation received, is one that we already have a GitHub issue for, so that whenever a project receives a donation, we can send an email to the project owner. And that's, yeah, so to illustrate that, basically we can track anything you can imagine that happens within our application that you can attribute to either an anonymous or an actual logged in user. Any of those things we can make Segment events out of. And these are and it's not too hard. We definitely need a developer anytime we want to add an event, but it's relatively straightforward. It's one issue as opposed to multiple GitHub issues. But if we want to send an email based off an event, the way that Autopilot works, we need that event to be triggered on behalf of the person that we want to send the email to. So that is why we have two events for project updated. We have one project updated for owner and one for the donor. The reason for that is that if we want to send an email to a donor who donated to a project, whenever that project posts an update, then we need to trigger an event on the donor's behalf. And so that's this example right here. Like these two people, when this project owner updated their project, both of these donors who donated to the project, you can see the different addresses right here. Both of these donors we would want to send an email to. And so to do that, we had to trigger the event on the donor's behalf. And this is sad. I feel like I just tested it and it's not working. So yeah, I guess part of this too is that you guys will hopefully be able to go in and help test Segment events and report issues. And this debugger is where you'll probably want to spend a lot of time doing that, because you can just see, it's a great way to see a live stream of all the events that Segment's capturing. For some reason right now, it looks like Segment is not capturing events.
We still have to write like unique text for each of these events though, right?
Can you? What do you mean exactly by that?
Like, it triggers an email to send to the donor, but we need to like write the email that would go to the donor.
Yes, and so we'll dive into that in a sec because it looks like Segment isn't updating. But let's imagine Segment's working.
What which Giveth are you on? You're on Dev?
I'm on Staging, which is what was working with Segment as of last night. Even I was testing it and it was working.
Yeah, it looks like it's on localhost and Staging.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Did anything? You guys know if anything changed with Staging last night?
Well, I'm sure lots changed.
Okay. So yeah, we should let them know that it looks like whatever's going on right now, Segment is not working. They might already be aware of that. Yeah, that's a quick overview of Segment. Basically, all the events we're tracking come through Segment. We can see them here in this debugger. Schema is another tool you can kind of use for debugging, and this just shows you history of all the events being called, and you can dive into any of these events. So if you ever want to see just a quick overview of like which properties we're tracking for any of these, and I have it here in the Notion. Yeah, with each of these events that we track, we can also add any property. So any data that's available to us, we can pass through each of these events as a property, and then each of these properties are available for us in any of the destinations that Segment is plugged into. And you can see right now we're pretty much just like we just threw in all the data to start with. So pretty much all the data that's available to us in the app should be coming through in these events and should be usable in these emails. And you can do interesting stuff too. You can not only like plug in any of this information directly into an email and tie it to a user and track it on their profile, but you can also you can do different email journeys based on the values of these properties. So for example, you could say, hey, maybe we want to send a different email to somebody, and this is just an example, but maybe we want to send an email A if the donation value is less than $100. Maybe we want to send email B if the donation is more than $100. And we want to add this user to a list of like whale donors. All that type of stuff is possible with these properties and with the Autopilot.
Willy, I have two questions. My first one is, so you've got Giveth development and Giveth production. What is Giveth production?
Great question. So Giveth production is Giveth.io. So everything that's happening on everything that's happening on Giveth.io. Giveth development is everything that's happening on Giveth staging. And so this is where we do a lot of the testing. Like right now, we haven't turned on the emails in prod yet because we still want to test it and make sure everything's working. As soon as we're ready to turn on the emails in prod, we would just on Giveth.io, we just come in here and flip the switch to on, and then boom, now we're sending emails in prod.
Okay, cool. My next question is, the last, I used to be an event planner for IBM, and when we would collect people's data for, let's say they were registering for an event, and we would have access to their personal data, it was like extremely important that we had like a checkbox where they were consenting to give us their information due to like the European GDPR laws and requirements that went into place like 2 years ago, I think. And some companies that weren't complying were getting hit with like serious legalities. So I'm just curious if you are aware of that. And
we kind of make our lives easy by just displaying if you use our site, you consent. And there's actually, I don't know, maybe Willy, you wanted to say something more about this, but I looked into it a bit, and it actually seems that most of the stuff is blocked anyway. Like a segment will get not much data out of a client usually because the clients are so shaped down. Like if you go into your console and you visit Giveth.io, you will usually see that everything is blocked, which kind of like also skews our analytics. And so this is like two-part. One thing, it is blocked. Second, what is not blocked, people just, accept. and also like IBM. Yeah, see. And IBM is like, has a reputation to lose. And like they are a big thing that can be sued. Like, I don't want to say I don't give a fuck, but
Yeah. Well, I was just wondering when Willy, you were like in a back end, I don't know, area on Segment where it was showing someone's personal data, and I'm assuming that's for them adding a project or something. But from my knowledge of GDPR, unless they consented to receiving marketing updates from us when submitting their project, it wouldn't technically be legal for us to take their contact information and then put it into an email list.
Yes. So I think you guys are both right, and I'm glad you asked this question. It's a really good question for us. So I think you're right. There are these GDPR regulations, and if we want to comply, we have to do exactly what you're saying. I think Kai's also right that IBM has a bigger target on their back, so I'm not really worried about anyone coming after Giveth, but nonetheless, we should, we have plans to get big. Maybe we'll be bigger than IBM one day when we are the main platform that donations stream through.
I love you.
IBM dies because they're becoming archaic and they're so slow and big. But the cool thing about Segment is they make all this really easy. So I did all the GDPR, I was a product manager for doing GDPR at Shapeshift. And it was so easy because of Segment. It could have been so hard to do all this GDPR stuff because there's so many hoops you got to jump through. But fortunately, Segment handles all of that. It's one of the really cool features. They make it super easy. So Segment, we can literally paste a script to our footer, and anyone who visits any of our pages, Segment will automatically figure out if they're in Europe and only show the banner to Europe. So
awesome.
That cookie banner. Segments. The cool thing about Segment is they, like a lot of websites are just lazy and they're like, okay, we'll just show it to everybody. But Segment will automatically handle making sure that Europeans see it, and they do it in also a really private way where they're not even using your IP address. They're looking at like your time zone and different stuff, so they're not even using personal identifiable information to target you. Then the cookie preferences, if you accept it, you basically grant yes to all these different tools. The cool thing about Segment is they also take all the tools and like categorize them so that users can be like, okay, well, I will leave the functional tools on, but no, I don't want marketing analytics and I don't want advertising, basically. This is, again, all we do is just paste a script into our footer, and then we get this. Then if a user updates any of their preferences, that all comes through in Segment. We can track it on like a user by user basis, all the preferences of every user. So if we ever do have some regulatory body come knock on our door, we can say, hey, here's all of our users. Here's all of the checkboxes, basically the history of like every user opting into being tracked or opting out. Then if a user opts out, Segment stops tracking them for whichever tools they've opted out of. Furthermore, if we ever get requests from a user to delete their data, you can do that in Segment. We can go in here and we can basically delete their data. And what Segment will do is it'll send a deletion request to all the different destinations that have stored data. So like we're tracking a user for 3 weeks. There's a bunch of data for them in Autopilot and Amplitude. We get a request to delete it. All we have to do is go into Segment. I forget exactly where it is. There's a way in here, deletion requests. You just put in the request, and then Segment will send that request to all the different destinations that have data on that user.
Cool.
It's awesome. Yeah, it's super cool. So I don't think it's a blocker for MVP, but I think, we should definitely go in. We should set up GDPR. Also, when I invited you guys, I gave it, and when we invite anyone, you can give them the ability to view the PII, and I left that off for now. So right now, if you guys go in there, I don't know what kind of data you'll see, but and I think there might be one other step we have to go in here where we go in here and Segment will kind of automatically flag what data it thinks is a name and an email and stuff. We might have to do a little bit of setup here just to make sure that the personally identifiable information is categorized as that. And then that will also make sure that anyone who's in Segment isn't seeing people's data.
Right. Okay. Beautiful.
Yes. Great question. Are there any other questions about Segment, or do you guys want to check out Autopilot?
When I try and click on some of the other stuff like personas and protocols, it just says talk to sales.
Yes, these are like premium features. Maybe we'll use them one day. They are really cool, but we don't even use these right now. It's at Shapeshift. We use Segment and we use Autopilot for so much. In fact, like just to give an example of Shapeshift, we do all these like rewards things where you can like earn Fox and you can earn, we gave people free Bitcoin, we gave people free ETH. We actually use Segment and Autopilot for pretty much all of that. Like Segment is the tool that tracks the events, and then with Autopilot we can do these really cool journeys where we can like not only move users through a journey with events, but you can also send events from Autopilot back to Segment. And we pretty much, that's what powers our entire reward infrastructure. So it lets you do, and by doing it, it was so cool because the way we built it, now we have this stuff in place, and now marketing can basically reward a user with any crypto based on any event, like send them emails and stuff based on with that, without any extra dev work, because we have that foundation in place.
Sorry, can I? I have one question. Like, seems like there are many people here now in this thing. I don't know. So traditionally, I thought we would do it in a way that, like, stuff would get constructed, like those email journeys, and then we would have them, and then, it's usually an ops thing. I don't mind if like one or two other people can do it as well, but I don't like having many people in a powerful space like this. And I thought it would be more like we need really much work on what is actually like, how do the emails look, how are they worded, like what should go in there, and putting that into Segment is a different thing. And yeah, that's probably my question. Like, how do we want to handle this kind of stuff? I think it would be better to like separate concerns a bit. And I really like. I mean, it would be cool if people could go into Autopilot because that's more like a consumption part of things. And you will get to that in a second. You will see what I mean. Yeah, that's my question.
Yeah, I do think it's a great question, Kai. And I was kind of wondering the same thing, like who should really have access to all these tools? And I agree, Segment is more of kind of an ops thing for setting up. Although at Shapeshift, we do have different stakeholders that use Segment for different purposes. So we have people we definitely have some people from the marketing department that are using Segment, especially for like testing. Whoever's going to be testing too, it's good for them to have access to Segment so that they can see the debugger and test these new events as they're added and stuff and make sure they're working. We were just noticing that it seems like right now something changed from last night where Segment's not tracking staging anymore for some reason. So that's a good question around who should have access. And yeah, I'm not quite sure what the answer to that is.
Yeah,
I did
about that also. Like, what are the roles? And from what you've shared so far, I was thinking someone for testing, someone for creating the email journeys, which that's awesome, Kai. If that's a part of like the ops role anyway, you probably have more familiarity. Maybe someone for like data, like reviewing the data and noticing trends and kind of adjusting things. That might be the same person as the email journey, or that might be a different person. And then one or maybe two people. I guess it could either be like multiple people depending on what specific campaigns they're owning, or it could be like one email marketing person that is generating the content and the visuals for the emails and like making them look really nice. I mean, that's probably what I'm most interested in. This tool seems pretty technical and like it has a lot of technical features. Which I don't know, it would take me a while, I think, to get into all the nitty gritty of that. But as far as like learning how to use these tools to set up beautiful emails and then like track specifically the email data for like marketing and communications purposes, that I'm really interested in.
Yeah, I think that's smart, Forrest. I like how you're thinking about it. I think really anyone on the communications team who wants to be involved with like emails and communicating with users, I think can get access to Autopilot. We pretty much have our full marketing team on Shapeshift there. I'm seeing now with Segment, I think what we can do here is we can probably limit it to staging for most users. So when we invite somebody, we can just give them access to the development environment. That way we don't have to worry about security stuff and people messing with prod. So I think that's probably what I'll do is I'll go back and I'll invite the team to have access to the development environment. Does that ease any concerns you had there, Kai?
Yeah, my only concern is that I still get questions like what is prod, what is development, and that kind of shows me that like even though we communicated this like 100 times, it might be just a different, like it might be hard to understand, or it just shows me that like maybe people are yeah if that distinction is kind of hard, yeah, it's probably not the greatest to like turn the knobs. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to like put anyone down. It's just like maybe it was like my communication, because I even get those from the dev team. They were still asking like what keys are going where, and we do have a lot of moving parts. So I don't think it's anyone's fault. Like I just know best because I set it up, and that's why it's totally clear for me. And that's what I meant. Like if something is not totally clear, and to be honest, like segment is so powerful. I look at it and like, whoa, you know. But like Hansel and Gretel, you know, like one breadcrumb after the other. Like I managed to crawl through. And for me, like you are probably the most knowledgeable person because you seem to use this for a while now. And so it should be voluntary. Anyone who wants to know can know. But I would love for us to go into like this mode where we have like Forrest just said, like somebody should make the journey, somebody should like evaluate the journey afterwards, and someone should like implement. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Okay, I totally hear what you're saying. Yeah, I like one of the things I like about Segment is that once it's set up, you like we were looking at this earlier, how you can go in there and we could try out new tools in development. So like to figure out if we want to use a new tool or to play around with like this whole catalog of tools that are now available at our fingertips. It's cool because you can just go sign up and drop in an API key, which becomes pretty easy. Maybe there's a little bit of a learning curve, but once you do it, it really unlocks all this cool power. But I think you're right. I think for now we can probably just have a few testers in there who are just looking at the development environment and make it clear, we don't need to be adding new destinations quite yet. That's just for testing purposes. And maybe that's even too much, but I think you're right. I think we can, if we want to add we can give everyone the catalog and we can say, hey, check out all these cool destinations. If you want to try one of these, just ask Kai to turn it on.
Yeah, I mean, like if people really want to play around, I think it crystallizes. I think from looking at this, you know yourself if you want to play with this. Like if this excites you and the whole thing of like, oh my God, I can connect all the things. If that is exciting to you in any way, maybe check it out. But don't feel like you have to. And the other thing is, if you do like play with destinations and such, I just wanted to highlight again that I made this hot seat account and put it's a Giveth email, it's the Wanderer, and I put it in ops. So if you ever like make a new account somewhere, because all those destinations, they want their own account, and maybe if that account should go further than only you, it might be good to use that hot seat account where I put the user and password for the email in ops, so we can even check the email. So, verification emails, for example.
Awesome. Yeah, and I love that too. If anyone is really excited about this and does want to play around with these tools, then yeah, I think we could make it voluntary, but I think it's the better approach than just inviting everybody. So,
and it's a good thing you said that like prod should be maybe like the holy, untouchable thing, and with dev, like adding something is always no problem. Deleting something is where you should probably ask always, or be more diligent. Like adding, it's like you can at one point it might become messy, but that's not the big problem. But deletion of something is a bigger problem.
Cool.
Yeah,
right.
It looks like there's a lot here, and it would be tough to say right away if it's something that would be interesting. It's like I need to watch like the 5-hour tutorial crash course here.
Totally. I'm glad you mentioned that. I posted this in your segment, has such great documentation and tutorials and stuff. So if you are interested, put a link in Notion and you can learn more about it pretty quickly. And spend 30 minutes on here and you will learn a lot about how awesome of a tool Segment is, and we'll figure out if it's good. I think it's a good fit for you. Cool. Any other questions about Segment, or should we dive into Autopilot? Look at some email journeys. All right, let's do it. So Autopilot is another really awesome tool. It's a marketing automation tool. So marketing automation is basically a way to send the right messages to your users. So instead of just, in the past, marketing was really like blasting a huge audience with the same message and hoping that you get the right people. And there's a lot of inefficiency there. Marketing automation is like targeting specific messaging to specific users at specific times to get the best outcomes. And so Autopilot's an awesome tool for that because it makes it really, really easy to do not just email notifications, but all types of notifications, like even postcards. We can literally send a user a postcard if we wanted to for a big donation. All that stuff's possible programmatically with Autopilot. And yeah, it plugs in with Segment so that we can move users through journeys or trigger notifications based on events, any events from Segment, as well as any properties in those events. And we can also, again, send events back to Segment through Autopilot. And that's just one of the tools. Autopilot integrates with other tools. It integrates with Zapier, which opens the door to a lot of possibilities. And it's really easy and fun. It feels very not technical. But what we're doing is actually pretty technical stuff. So let's check it out. So here in Autopilot, we have, this is our contacts. So anyone who signs up with their email and gets identified by Segment with their email address will show up in Autopilot, and we'll get a profile for them. So you can click on any of these users and you can see a whole stream of their activity, which is this is a really nice analytics tool. Anytime a user comes back to Giveth and is visiting pages or is doing events, we'll be able to see a stream of that. And also you can track any of these different fields, and these fields can be mapped to any of the properties from these Segment events. And so I already did a little bit of setup before. I'll show you what that looks like. And I have a space for that here in the Notion somewhere in here for how to customize these fields. So there's a little bit of setup that I already did that this is probably the hardest part, but it's not that hard. Any property that we want to be available in Autopilot, we just need to map to the events in Segment. And they have some really good documentation on how to do that. I wish it was loading right now. Here's what it looks like though, basically. The Segment property is number of dogs, and then you just call the Autopilot field whatever you want. Anytime an event comes through with number of dogs from Segment, it will, and let's say the number of dogs is 3, it'll update the field for the user that triggered that event in Autopilot to 3. Then you could just use that for tracking and have 3 under the number of dogs field on that user's profile. Or you could plug in the number of dogs field in an email, and when that user got that email, they'd see 3. When another user who triggered the number of dogs event was 7 as that property, they would get an email that has 7 in that field. I'll show you guys what that looks like. I'm bummed it's not loading right now. But yeah, we basically have a handful of events or of properties already mapped. Anytime, here it is. And so here are the properties that we already have available. Anytime we wanted to add a new property, as long as it's already available in a Segment event, which, like we saw earlier, pretty much all of the different properties we would care about are already included, we would just add a mapping for that. So like if we wanted to, I don't know if we'd want to store price at ETH, but if we wanted to, let's see, we could just plug that in. Basically, it'll just look like this. And we could call it whatever we wanted to. Add that field.
Isn't that the amount donated?
The amount donated, I think we have another.
Oh, that's amount probably. Yeah, sorry, of course.
right here, amount. Yep.
That's at the value at time of donation, I guess.
Those should be and those should be included so that we can send the user an email like, and the like you just donated $3 or 0.3 ETH to this project, basically.
That's interesting. There are many. There's price, ETH. I just saw. We might need to have a look here at the values.
Yes, and if you ever wanted to do that, you go over to the debugger, and then we could click on any of these, and we could actually see examples of these different values. I don't think we have a made donation one though recently.
Yeah, I noticed it. Sadly, the list ends pretty soon.
Yeah, we were playing around with it this morning. I trigger one right now, but for some reason, it doesn't seem like staging is streaming data. It was working last night, but this morning we haven't been able to get any updates yet. So these are all people who have triggered just one identify event and segment or one track event with their email. So as soon as if we put this into prod, any user that would come to Giveth.io and connect their email address, we'd start seeing in here, and we'd be able to send emails. So in Autopilot, sending emails is all about these journeys, which I think I have open in this tab. So these are the journeys I've already created. If you want to create a new journey, you click here, and yeah, well, first we'll look at some of these, and then we can try creating a new example journey. So here's one, a draft one that I threw together for Project Creative. And so here's kind of what the journey interface looks like. So over here on the right-hand side, you have triggers, actions, and conditions. So right here is an example of a trigger. So a trigger is something that, based on this, we would then basically move the user to an action. So in this example, we have the trigger of a segment event, Project Created. And so you can, if you wanted to do a different one, you can pull it in here, and then you would just type in the name of the event that you care about. So you could say, made donation, basically. Then you can just say, hey, whenever this event is triggered, move to this next action. Or you could also do specific properties. So you could say, when the property is, asset equals ETH. So like maybe we only want to do it when people donate ETH. Then we only want to, for some reason, trigger this event. You could do that with as many properties as you wanted to. And you have these options for equals, does not equal, is empty, is not empty. These are things that typically like a developer would be able to do on the back end. But now we are now empowered to do this with no code. And we can do really powerful stuff with this. So we start with a trigger. And here I have two events. So I say, okay, when a project is created, we want to do two things. We want to add the user to this list projects. Now, what that does is that we have this growing list that we can use anytime for all of our different projects. And we can blast emails to them. We can create refined segments where we can say, hey, every project with the project name that starts with P, we want to send a special email to, or every project that was created in this month, we want to create a segment of, like, whatever we want to do there. We can do that once you have these lists. So that's one action I have here. You can also, we could update a field on the user's thing too, if we wanted to do that, and then use those fields later. Basically, we can do any of these actions. The action I have here is that we're adding them to a list. Then I threw an A/B split in here. So this is something that we always try to do at Shapeshift with all these different email campaigns, is we try to do two different versions, because what you'll find is oftentimes one version will end up performing a little bit better than the other, and that can just be as simple as like the subject line of the email can have a big impact over time on the open rates. So if you put these A/B tests in, then it makes it much easier to just go back and every once in a while check on the conversion rates, keep the one that's doing better, and then try and beat it again, and just constantly try and get better conversion rates. But yeah, if you want to send an email based on the event, you just add one of these email cards. So you say, okay, this event happens, and we could just drag it right here if we wanted to, and say, then we want to send an email. And then you can use any of the existing emails we have, or you can create a brand new one. And Autopilot has an awesome email creation tool, just like MailChimp would. and it's really user friendly. And they also have some templates you can start with too. But if you start blank, you can just drag in text boxes or images, videos, and it's easy to customize. Probably easier if we use some templates and start creating some of our own templates that we can use. So we'll probably end up having like a base template that looks nice and has kind of a nice header and footer and stuff, and then you can kind of just customize the content each time. But yeah, so this is an example of a project created email that we could send, and that's working right now in development. If you create a project, sign in with an email, you should get this. You should get one of these versions of the project created email. So you can see we're using some of these tags that we created earlier. So project title, if you go to one of these accounts, you can see project title is one of the fields that we have mapped from Segment. So the last project I created was Metafest. If I were to go create a brand new project, this would update to the latest project I had created. And I would get an email saying, your project name is live on Giveth. Then right here, this is, you can just plug any of these tags in directly in the emails. They also have this nice thing, merge tags. You can click, that just shows you all the different tags that are available, including these custom ones that we added. So you could say project title, equal. This is for any reason, like you can use this equal thing to say, hey, if there is, for any reason, that property isn't available, you can put an alternative text in there so that if the user, for some reason, doesn't have that tag, this is the text that they would see. If you don't do that and the user doesn't have a tag, then it's just blank. And then you can also do that in URLs. So right here we have project title. If there's no project title, the user would see your project. And then, let's see, how do I edit this link? Directly in the link, you can also put these merge tags. So right now we say, okay, link to giveth.io/project and then project slug. Project slug is one of the properties that comes through. And you can see right here, it's just, we can use that because every Giveth project is at giveth.io/project/project slug. So now, boom, it was really easy for us to go in here. This literally took minutes. And there's a little bit of a learning curve, but once you get the hang of it, you can do so much cool stuff so easily. This is just a quick draft. I think there's obviously other cool stuff we could add to this email to make it even better. But this was a quick start. All right, just showed quite a bit. Any questions so far around?
This is amazing, Willy.
These emails. Oh,
I know you didn't develop this, but for sure you're a power user. Like, for example, this strange ways of using variables is like a bit to like find out. I've never seen them like that, but so very cool. Thank you for digging this up. Thank you for recommending. Like, this is probably the easiest and most powerful way we can do this. I have just one quick question because the question came up. A Segment is not supporting Discord hooks yet. Do you know if Autopilot, by chance, with all those different actions in the journey, has it? I mean, no, yeah, okay. Sorry, I could have done that.
That's a great question. What I'm gonna guess, connect your Autopilot to Discord in 2 minutes. I was gonna guess Zapier has it. So Zapier, which I'm sure you're familiar with, Kai, makes it even more extensible. And I think Autopilot, I know Segment at least has like webhook support, so we can send any event to any webhook. I'm not sure if Autopilot has that, but they do. It looks like right here through Zapier, if we wanted to, we could do exactly that. I think. Let's see. Maybe it's not as cool as we'd hope. But yeah, it's a good question. I do know they have it for Slack, so like we could also, and we can do this with a.
That is pretty cool because we implemented it on the Segment side for now, but in Segment I don't know if is discrimination now then the right term. It's really hard to separate different things in. It's not really hard, but like how you set up events in Segment is definitely less comfortable than this one, especially because we have these journeys now, and at any point we could just send this to Slack, send this to Slack. Very cool. Thanks.
You bet. And yeah, we can even, one cool thing is you can send events back to Segment even. So like, this is something that's really cool that if we ever wanted to, let's say like right here we have in this journey, the user creates a project, 50% of them get this email, 50% get this email. Then when the email is sent, and check this out. So when you go in here, this is how you do like version A or version B, is you just use the arrow as you're dragging it out. And whichever arrow connected to, this person will get A, this person will get B. You could drag it out through B and then pull it up to A, or this one above. So that's how you kind of do it here. Here's another example. After an email, to move the user through the journey, you can choose any of these different options. So you can say, move them forward when they open the email, if they reply to it, or when the email is sent, which is often what we use, when they click on something. So you have all these different options. What I'm saying here is like, okay, so this email gets sent. When the email is sent, then put the user into this next step, which is a 14-day delay. This is just an example. Ultimately, what we should be thinking here is like, okay, after a user creates a project, what's the next thing we should tell them and when? So compared to like in the past, you know, a lot of projects do newsletters, and newsletters are still great, but newsletters require you to create brand new content every month and then hope that people open it. Instead, the new marketing automation that's working well is, okay, what are the best emails we could send to a user, you know, the day they sign up, 3 days after they sign up, a week after they sign up, if they put something in their cart and didn't check out, you know, or if they did put something into their cart and checked out, let's actually send them another email, a different email, so that we can bring them back. And so that's what we should be doing here, is like we want to keep building out these journeys, and we want to figure out what is the best step to send a user when they, you know, 14 days after they create a project. So one idea I had was like, well, if they have an update, if they update their project, then we can send them, if they don't update the project, we should send them an email saying, hey, you should probably update your project. Or we could send an email saying, hey, projects that update, that post updates, you know, tend to get X% more donations. Whatever we think is like the best email that would get the project to come back and post an update, if we think that's the best thing to ask them to do. So this enables us to say after 14 days, check a field. So I added a field last night. I mapped the date for when a project gets updated. So you can see that here. I posted an update last night at 10:08 p.m. And so now we have the ability to look at any of these different users and be like, okay, here's when the project last updated. We can use that to say like, okay, which projects are active? You know, which projects have had an update in the last 3 months? We could really easily create a list of that. That's called a smart segment. Real quick, so we can smart segments. We could create a new one. We could say projects who have updated in the last month. Create that. We could say, so refine by list. We want to look at only projects. I mean, we could say, and the field, let's see, contact field value, last updated is, or between, or is before, or is after, say, or real.
This is so sweet. And I really like the faces on the side. I did a lot of visual programming, so I really like this.
Isn't this cool? It is such an awesome tool, and the more you use it, the more you like it. Let's see. Oh, okay. And then you can get a preview, so you can see, oh, here's Willy. Here's the only user who falls into that camp. So it'll show you a preview of those lists. But yeah, that's just to show you can do some powerful stuff there with these smart segment triggers, and that's why it's useful sometimes to just any property that's mapped will just show up automatically under any user. So as long as we have the fields mapped in that first step, then whenever an event comes through with a property, it'll tie it to that specific user. And so yeah, and then we can use that. So we can say, okay, if this, as long as the what this is saying, okay, after this 14-day delay, check the last project update field. If it's empty, then we want to send them an email, basically. That's what we'd say here. We want to send them an email saying, hey, you haven't updated your project. You should update your project. If it is empty, then we can eject them from this journey. Or we could, we could say, okay, well, let's send them a different email if they have done it. Or we could say, you know what, let's not send them any email. Let's just add a delay, and then we'll do something else in the week. But hopefully that gives the idea. I didn't want to say this is the perfect journey. I just wanted to basically put the tools in place and hand this off so that whoever's interested in this can go in there and start crafting these journeys and at least put the basic email notifications in place. It's like we want to make sure that at the very least you get an email when you create a project. But after that, let's start thinking about what's the next email that we want to send to a project creator.
So now that I kind of can see everything and like where it all ends up, these projects, like how does Segment know what the projects are? And then like how are these attributes being defined and then pulled into Autopilot?
Yes. So Segment knows what the projects are because of the events that the developers put in. So like if we wanted to, so basically
the developers need to put in the events, because I can see that there's like some technical stuff there for like actually making the events. And then after that, you give that event, you give it a value, and then that value gets pulled from Segment into Autopilot.
Exactly. It goes from Segment.
Can you show me an event?
Yes.
Like I want to see what it looks like.
Yeah, so here's an event. And so I asked James, I said, James, can we put an event in place where when a project does an update, and let's do two events. Let's do one on behalf of the owner so that we can see, okay, this is on the owner's behalf. So it's like this is triggered for Willy Ogrzali. And what that means is that all this data then gets sent to Autopilot on behalf of Willy, and it gets tracked under the Willy profile. But if you had donated to Mitch had created a profile and donated to my project, then when I update my project, this event would get triggered on your behalf. And instead of saying, Willy is the email and Willy is the user ID, and Willy's user ID would have Mitch's user ID and Mitch is the email. And that would enable us to then send you an email.
Yeah. And then James went in here, and if you scroll up to the top, he gave the event a name. So it's like project updated donor. And so that's the event that would be checked when you pull it into Autopilot.
Exactly.
Okay.
So if you wanted a new event, you could say, James, when a project receives a donation, I want a donation received event. So the event should be called donation received. And the properties I want to know, the asset that was donated, the amount that was donated.
So we would have to refer to the event, this thing here, if we wanted to know, for example, like when this event happened, what was the slug? And then we would have to look at it and look at the slug, and then slug equals manifest. So that if like you know the attributes you want to get, you have to actually look at what it's called in the code.
Exactly. And that could happen proactively or retroactively. So you could ask James, you could say, these are the events, these are the properties that we want. Or if there was already an event in here, you could come into the segment debugger and just look at this, and you could see, okay, here's all of the data that's available to us.
And so these are all the events that happen like in chronological order, but where can we see all of the events that have been programmed? Like, okay, here we go. I see it now.
Yep.
Okay.
So let's click on one of these made donation.
And then we can see what information he's choosing to capture.
Exactly. Yeah, the sad thing is you can't actually see, when you go to this view, you can't see actual examples. You just see.
But I just to know what the attribute's called.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And then this is what you would take, and you would go to the field mapping in Autopilot, and you would just paste that here, and then you could call it whatever you wanted to call it in Autopilot. So you paste amount here, and then you could just call it amount. This step's a little silly. I wish that they just pulled in all the data and stuff, but you have to do this step in order for any of these properties to actually be available in Autopilot.
Yeah, you have to actually name it something else instead of just using the exact segment property.
Exactly. Cool. I got 2 minutes left, and I got to hop over to a meeting at Shapeshift. Any other final questions, or do you guys feel like you have, like you are now empowered to go in here and start editing some of these different journeys?
I'm stoked.
So,
this is absolutely brilliant. Thanks.
Can we get this thing set up to development? Because it looks like it's only hooked up to production.
Right now, it's only hooked up to development. So
I thought I saw it because okay.
we have it. So as soon as we're ready to go live and prod,
No, I'm
literally-
talking about Autopilot.
What do you say?
I'm talking about Autopilot because Autopilot, like you go to the contacts
Mhm.
and there's only like 6 people there, you know?
Yes. So right now,
So this is coming from production because like I've used it staging tons and I don't see my email on there.
right now it is only getting data from Giveth development. When we wanted to plug it in, it's ready to go on in production. We just need to flip this switch basically. But yeah, I'm not sure. One thing for sure is that in staging, you need to not just be logged into like a MetaMask, but actually have your email associated. And I'm not sure. I know that we were working on adding it to the profile step. I know that was done on the back end, but we needed to do it. We needed to add the UI on the front end.
It's there
And once-
already.
There it is. Okay, cool. So now, if you go into staging and you create a project, you will have to. It should work. But this morning we were seeing for some reason that segment is not. We're not getting data right now in development for some reason for segment. And I'm not sure why that is, but it was working last night. Oh, maybe we're getting some data now. I'm not sure. All right. Well, I wish we could hang out more because I'm sure we could talk about this cool stuff all day. But I got to head out to a meeting, unfortunately. But hopefully this was a good start. And then we can do this. We can, if you have any questions, reach out and maybe we'll do another session, more advanced session one day. But hopefully this is a good starter.
Thank you so much, Willy.
Cool.
This was really helpful.
Yeah, thank you, Willy.
Awesome.
My pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Was this
Thank
recorded?
you.
Yeah.
Great.
Awesome. I'll see you guys soon. Have a great day.
Bye.
See you.
Thanks, Willy.
Bye. Thank you.
Griff had a off-topic thing he wanted to talk about. Griff,
Mhm.
are you there before we jump out?
Griff. Okay.
I'm here. I'm trying.
I know.
I've literally been trying to find this tab for 5 minutes.
I figured.
It's really so
So many
sad because I really wanted Willy to have a voice in this. But I'm going on Omar's show today, and usually this show gets like 2,000 to 10,000 views over the course of, whatever. And I wanted to know like what should I talk about at Giveth Token on?
Oh, should you talk about the token or not? Is that what your question is?
Or even like the concept that we want to reward people with ownership over the platform, or like the idea of Giveth and our direction.
I think from a curation and governance standpoint, and putting the DApp control into the hands of the users, there's definitely a lot to talk about there without specifically saying what the token value and generative aspect is.
Yeah, I would say definitely talk about it. It's super interesting.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing is that I'm working on this Argentina project that came up out of MetaFest yesterday. And the fact that we have both dApps, that Giveth has 2 dApps and is an awesome community. Like, I know there's like, yay, we launched the new dApp, but I also, just the fact that we have 2 functioning ones right now is really important.
Okay. So, but don't mention the token, it sounds like.
I think, do we say out loud that the Giveth token is coming on this call?
It's a lot of eyeballs.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I want hints. I want like a really clear hint dropped if it's not stated all the way out loud.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great way to like build some buzz and momentum. But yeah, I like the idea of it being like a strong hint rather than an official announcement.
Okay. Cool. Lauren, Mitch, do you guys have a thought?
On mute.
I think go for it. Like it sounds super exciting, and it's like very high probability we're going to be able to deliver. So I think it's going to be more exciting than not saying anything at all about it.
I mean, we can use the phrase giving back, and we're looking at ways we can give back to our donors because that's like our big tagline thing. But it's also 2 words. We can use them.
Yeah. Give backs.
Yeah, I love the hinting idea. That's
Yeah.
the best because you don't have to explicitly say anything and have to back check. We can be like, we're rewarding donors. We want people to be more involved with our dApps and our development and have some ownership over the community. But you don't actually have to explicitly be like, and we're launching a token.
Yeah. Especially like when I've been trying to like get people to give me their ETH address, it's like you kind of have to explain yourself a little bit, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Kai, are you there? Do you have a thought? You watch Omar's show. You even donated to his Gitcoin grant. Oh, Kai's not there.
Ah, bugger.
Kai found Giveth through Omar many
wow.
years ago.
Oh.
So, yeah. Oh, well.
I think
okay.
if he were to ask you the question, you could answer the question truthfully. There's that side of it too.
I think because that's what I worry about, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Right?
he's just going to be like, oh, so are you going to have a token then? Like, of course he's going to ask that. Why wouldn't you
I
ask?
know, right?
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah.
You could say
Cool.
we're not working on making a token.
You should, I'll say you should go to our Giveth transparency channel and find out for yourself.
Well, that's true for sure. And you could also say, well, we already have 1 token because we have the reputation token for our DAO.
Yeah, I don't think I'll say that. I would not call the rep token a token. It's non-transferable, right?
Right. It's just so right.
I mean, it is a token. Yeah, I actually got in trouble with this a little bit because I made this push with the C-Stack token. It's like, no, it's a fucking token. I know it's not a token. It is a token, but it's not a token. It's a score, you know? And I pushed token, and then I got enough pushback eventually. It's a score. It's
Okay, that's really good to hear. Thank you.
Yeah. I didn't, it makes sense. Otherwise, people just don't understand what you mean, and it feels like you're tricking them.
Because the token in people's mind has value.
It's transferable. Yeah. I think that's the big thing. If it's transferable, it can be a token. I mean, I think the line goes to like, or if it's tradable for value, then it can be a token.
Gotcha.
Because you could have a bonding curve and a non-transferable token, right? Or you could have a non-transferable token that has claim over a pool. Like imagine if a balancer pool token was non-transferable, it'd still be a token because you could trade it in for other money that is transferable.
Yep, that makes total sense. So yeah,
Anyway,
I guess the answer of if he asks you the question directly would be to check the transparency channel to find out.
Yeah.
what?
Yeah. Oh,
I mean, I would say hint at it. Like,
Yeah.
if you're gonna get that many views, like, don't give them like a cryptic answer that they'll like doesn't get them going at all. You know?
Yeah. I could say join our community and find out. We do everything in the open. I don't know. I don't really like being super cryptic, but I can say, I don't want to announce things that are happening. I don't want to make an announcement of an announcement. I want to, announce it if it's done. Right. Like, I feel like personally, I like talking about things that we have done over things we're going to do,
Yes. For sure to that.
Okay, cool. But that doesn't. But I like this idea of, hey, this is our philosophy. We believe donors should be rewarded. We want to create a donor-owned platform. We want to make sure that we want to meet donors where they are. We want to meet givers where they are, which is like they're expecting tax-deductible donations. They expect to be rewarded. They expect that if they're going to sacrifice and give, that they should get a little something in return. And we want to build something like that, you know.
I love that you keep switching and saying give and giving instead of donor and donating.
Yeah, I gotta start saying givers. Yeah, good call. Any other tips or things that you guys would want me to talk about on Omar? I can't promise that it'll even come up. Who knows? He might just want to talk about NFTs the whole fucking time.
Dear God.
What time is that on? It's live. He does
3
live, right?
p.m. 3 p.m. West Coast time.
3 p.m. West Coast. Okay, perfect.
I have no
Be
idea.
on YouTube live stream.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So you can always ask questions in there too. I imagine it'll be an hour to 2 hours. So yeah.
Yeah, it's always so good. Highly recommend.
You can always go in there and ask questions in the live stream and be like, oh, not Mitch says. Mitch from Not Giveth says, asks. Anyway,
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thanks for the advice, guys. Got on.
Okay, thanks.
Bye, everyone.
And thanks everybody. This was really, really cool. Like, I'm not kidding. That was the very first thing I was begging for when we came in, is a good CMS system, and I couldn't find anything that I liked. And Segment and Autopilot and what I saw here today totally covers what we need. That's
yeah,
awesome.
absolutely. Super comprehensive.
Yeah, it is totally beyond what CMS.
I remember, Kai,
quite
you were the one saying, no, not that. No, not that.
Cheers. See you later.
Okay, bye, everyone.